Hello, this is Bronwyn Ailey, Local Food Systems and Small Farms Educator for University of Illinois Extension. And today is Thursday, June the 25th. And for this week's local food happenings at DSAC, I'm going to be discussing and demonstrating some of the different sprayers that we utilize in the high tunnels here on site. And with these sprayers, we're not promoting any certain brand or company. It's just the different types of sprayers, whether it be a handheld pump-up sprayer or backpack sprayers, air blast sprayers, just the different types of sprayers that we utilize and kind of the pros and cons of each of those within our production system here. And so not really going to talk about any crop production for this week or look at progress of the different crops, but really focusing on the different sprayer types. If your high tunnels are like ours now, we're starting to see a lot of insect pressure, and so whether you are a conventional or organic sprayer, some type of pesticide is going to need to be applied unless you're using biological controls, but most of us are going to need to look at applying some type of pesticide to help control these insect pests. And so I thought the timing was pretty good to kind of show you and demonstrate some of the different sprayers that we do utilize here on site. I will mention that I'll be gone next week, and so there will not be an update for next week, but stay tuned for the one the following week. And hopefully we'll be, in the 2 weeks from now, we'll be able to show quite a few tomatoes that are ripening in the determinate trial, and again, more tomatoes growing hydroponically, as well as some of the bell peppers. So with that, I hope everybody has a good holiday weekend coming up next week, and everybody be well, be kind, and stay safe. The first sprayer that we want to demonstrate is just a basic hand pump-up sprayer, and the main use for this sprayer would be to do spot spraying of weeds just around. You can see Julie pumping that up. Once you get it up to pressure, then we can start to spray. And it does have a little bit of nozzle adjustment to go from a really fine mist to a stream, but unless you're constantly keep pumping the sprayer, the pressure is inconsistent and really wouldn't be good for applying insecticides or fungicides in a consistent manner. And so really the main purpose for us using this is just to spot spray for weeds around the tunnel and around the building and such. The next sprayer, as we progress up the line of sprayers, is it's still a pump-up sprayer, but it is a backpack sprayer. And you can see the pump is on the left-hand side, and then the sprayer nozzle is on the right-hand side. And they can, depending on if you're left-handed or right-handed, what your preference, those can be switched out. This allows for a little bit more consistency than the handheld pump-up, because you can keep continual pressure while you're spraying and walking. And the nozzle does have some adjustments, and with this nozzle I believe you could also put some different tips on. And so this does offer a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more consistency in the pressure and getting the right amount of pesticide applied. I think on this one, backpack sprayers like this generally run approximately $100, $150, depending on the brand that you use. The little handheld that we showed prior to this, I don't know, you can pick one up for $20 at a local farm store. And so we're going to kind of, as we move through these sprayers, we're going to progress up from very basic to more high-end sprayers. and we'll try to remember to give you some price comparisons as we go. So I think that's about it for the backpack sprayer. There's lots of different companies that make these, different brands, and again, they're a little bit more versatile, and you can change out nozzles, and the consistency is a little bit better on the pressure with these. This next sprayer is again a backpack sprayer, but is an upgraded model from the one we just showed you, in that it is actually battery operated. And so if you notice, there is no handle on the side to pump up and put pressure into the tank. This actually has a battery that is running and putting pressure into the tank. And another good thing about this sprayer is that it also has an agitator in it. And so if you're mixing a pesticide that is with a formulation that is not water soluble, if it may be something that stays in suspension, having an agitator will help keep your filters and screens from clogging up, because it won't want to settle out. It keeps the pesticide agitated and moving around. But with this one, again, we can change out nozzles, and we don't have to be pumping as we walk, and it will give a really consistent pressure and spray. I think really until you get to the very bottom of the tank where you're just about empty, then you'll start to see a little bit of sputtering, but otherwise it really holds a very consistent spray pattern or pressure. And I believe this particular sprayer is anywhere between $300 and $350 depending on where you can get it from. Another thing that this sprayer does have on it too, to help you with calibration, it has tones, so depending on the rate that you want to apply, it makes a beep for every step you should take. So it helps you, not only does the pressure stay consistent, but it also helps your pace stay consistent, which helps you ensure that you're putting on a more consistent, proper rate for the application that you're making. The next sprayer we want to show is an Atomizer, and this one is new to us. We purchased this, we've had it for 2 years now, and actually saw it being used in Mississippi when I was attending the Mississippi State Greenhouse Tomato Workshop. And on one of the farm tours, there was a grower utilizing this particular sprayer in his high tunnel, or his greenhouse where he was growing tomatoes. But with the Atomizer, it's actually electric, so you need an extension cord. You need to be able to plug it into electricity, and depending on how the location that you're spraying, you may need a pretty long extension cord. With these commercial tunnels, you know, they're 30 by 96, so you're going to need at least a 100-foot extension cord if you want to make it from one end of your road to the next without having to unplug. You'll also notice, I think this is a 2-gallon. It's a 2-gallon capacity tank, whereas the previous two backpack sprayers that we showed you actually had a 3 to 4 gallon capacity. And so with this Atomizer, we're going to demo the spray pattern out here on the concrete because it's pretty easy to see. But one of the things we should note is how much air is coming out with it that really is going to move the foliage around. And so we'll have Julie turn this on and show the spray pattern. And so you can see the swath on the ground is not very wide. It does have a little bit of an adjustment as far as the displacement amount that comes out, but you see the pattern isn't very wide on the ground. But you know, we can change the amount of pressure or the force that the spray comes out with. But on the concrete, we don't see a very wide spray pattern because it's a lot of mist, and it's blowing up through the air before it's hitting the ground. And when we take it out in the tunnel, we'll see how it really moves the foliage around. And this type of sprayer is going to be really good at getting your pesticides on all surfaces of the plant, the underside of the leaves, the top side, really blowing it into the plant canopy. And when we're spraying for those problem insect pests, you think about aphids, thrips, spider mites. You know, aphids love the underside of leaves. The aphids love the underside of the leaves, and the thrips, they're in the flowers. They can be crawling on the fruit too as well. And spider mites, they're top and bottom. And having the ability to get the pesticide onto all the surfaces of the plant is really important to help control these pests. Those pump-up backpack sprayers, while they have consistent pressure, don't necessarily move the canopy around as much, and it's more challenging to get the pesticides applied to the undersides of the leaves and such. Whereas we'll see when we take this out into the tunnel in a moment how much the atomizer can move the canopy around and really disperse the pesticide on all surfaces. So we brought the atomizer into the high tunnel so we could demonstrate its spray pattern on our tomato crop and let you see how it really disperses the pesticide around. And so with this atomizer, again, it is electric, and so you see we have an extension cord that's going to have to be run out. You know, hopefully you've got, well, honestly, this sprayer, if you don't have a source for electricity, isn't going to work for you, but it needs a 110 outlet, so you have to think about that if you're considering this sprayer. And also, I believe this runs between, it was roughly about $300, I believe. And there are different companies, different brands of atomizers. But with that, we'll let Julie get started and kind of show you what it looks like. You can see how it's really blowing. Blowing that mist into the canopy. And one thing to be cautious of is it has an intake on the back end, and your shirt can get sucked into it and really slow the sprayer down. Also, if you have a lot of foliage, it's hard to, you can kind of, like cucumber leaves or something, could get sucked into it. See, so you have to watch out for that. And also, it has this one shoulder strap as a way for you to carry it, which is not always very comfortable or easy to use. And I guess a good thing about it is it's not an overly large sprayer, so as you can see, our tomatoes are growing tall and together. We don't have a lot of room. If she was to be wearing one of those other backpack sprayers, it could be pretty cumbersome to get down the row with that. But we can, this is really moving the pesticide into the canopy of the plant. One thing that we did note about this sprayer, if you have, in the other hydroponic tunnel, when we have cucumbers or indeterminate tomatoes that are taller than Julie, when you're having to spray foliage that's above shoulder height or so, the sprayer does not work nearly as well. We're not really sure what the problem with that is, why that's making that happen, but it doesn't have enough force to push the pesticide up at that point. So it really works better on determinate tomatoes, works great in a greenhouse setting. I think it works really well on hanging baskets, if you have any nursery plants, things like that you're needing to spray. Anything on the ground works really well. So the next sprayer we're going to demo is a backpack mist blower, and this one is gas powered. It does have an agitator in it, and very powerful, definitely going to be able to blow your pesticide into the canopy and really move that canopy around. These types of backpack sprayers have been around for quite a while. You know, probably run you about $650 or so. I would suggest making sure you get the model that has the agitator in the tank, so that way you can put different formulations of pesticides in and not worry about clogging up the screens. So the agitator is pretty important. Plus, when you're walking, you're jostling it around. One negative of this is it's really heavy. It's a heavy booger. Many passes with this and you're going to get pretty wore out. From having used this before, it is hard to keep your pace consistent. It's pretty heavy when it starts out, you know, and obviously as you spray it down, the gallonage is going down, so it's getting a little bit lighter. But as it's hot out and you're trying to walk through the field or wade through a high tunnel, you know, it can be hard to keep a consistent pattern with it. You'll also notice it's kind of bulky, and when Julie goes over here to the high tunnel, we'll see how it can be pretty cumbersome to try to get through some of these rows when they're pretty tight together and not be potentially destroying fruit or your plants within the tunnel. Okay, so now we have the mist blower in the tunnel, and you can see how much more it really blasts the foliage, which is great. But you can see how bulky it is, and it's really, you really have to be careful getting into the plants on either side. You can see the back of the engine is into that plant, and when she turns, her elbows are into the other. This is a great tool for small scale farms outside when you're in a field setting where your rows are spread further apart. But in the tunnel, while it is getting us great coverage and really moving pesticides through the canopy, it is pretty bulky and cumbersome to utilize in this situation with the row spacing that we have in these tunnels. The final sprayer that we want to show you is kind of a homemade spray rig that consists of a 25-gallon spray tank with and the pump that comes on it, which I think is a 2.2 gallon per minute, I think up to a maximum 60 psi on the pump. It does need to hook up to like a 12-volt battery, so you can see we've got it hooked into our gator, our UTV that we've got here on site. But you could very easily put a battery on the wagon, so it could be a self-contained unit. And then we also have on this, we have a 50-foot reel of air hose that we hooked into the system. Again, knowing that these tunnels are, 96 feet long, I think a 100-foot reel hose would be better if you can find the reel and hose to fit that. And also on this, we have a special nozzle, a high-pressure spray nozzle. I think the nozzle itself was about $150, but we hooked that into the system, and it does adjust from, you can make it do a very pointed single stream down to an open up. You can open it up wide so it looks like almost a hollow cone. There's the direct stream, and then if we open it up wider, we can really make the droplets a lot smaller and open up almost to a hollow cone pattern on this. And so with this system, as you can see, we can, and we'll show this here in just a second, it's a lot easier to go down the rows and spray, and I think that there's enough pressure on this to you adjust your nozzle setting just right where it has enough pressure behind it to really blow the your pesticide into the canopy, but it isn't so cumbersome that you can't walk down the aisle. And I think if you were to buy the hose and reel, I don't know, you're probably looking at about $150 or so. Altogether, I think with these components, this would probably cost about $650, $700 to put this together. I'm sure there are companies that make this setup already, but if you wanted to put one together yourself, these are the main components of this. And so now we'll go into the tunnel and we'll show you the spray on the canopy in here. With this only being a 50-foot hose reel, we only have the capacity to do half of the row at a time. But you can see definitely more force than the Atomizer. Probably not blowing the canopy around as much as the air blast sprayer, but definitely getting good coverage and not cumbersome at all. You're not having to wear a heavy backpack trying to navigate down the row. You just have the nozzle and the hose in your hand. And so this is probably our preferred method of spraying. And if you notice, Julie was backing up through the row. This way she's not walking through pesticide residue as she's spraying. She's walking away from it. And also I will mention everything that we've been spraying today has just been water for demonstration purposes. Typically we would be wearing, if we were using pesticides, she would be wearing all of the appropriate personal protective equipment required for the different sprays, whether it be full Tyvek suit, rubber gloves, rubber boots, respirator, whatever was required on the label to be in compliance with that particular pesticide. But anyway, I think that this has given you a good demonstration of several different types of sprayers that we can utilize in our different production systems, and hopefully this has given you some ideas and some information that you can take back and utilize in your practice.